Welcome, YouTube. This is Acid Roots. So, happy early Halloween. I'm going to review a special treat here, and that's the Resident Evil soundtrack from the movie from 2002. But yeah, before I do that, I'm also going to showcase this hoodie I got. Has my old former logo on here that I used to have for my avatar before I got the new one. But yeah, so folks, like there was a movie, Resident Evil in 2002, had Mila Jovovich, was based upon the Resident Evil series in a lot of ways. And there was a soundtrack that was curated by Marilyn Manson. Now, he did a number of songs. He did at least 5 songs on this project, and it was kind of a mixture of like industrial metal, kind of electronic rock, electronic metal, that type stuff. Little bit of new metal in there, and some light kind of electronic rap in a sense. Like Method Man and the Crystal Method try some kind of rave type music slash electronic rap, which doesn't, in my opinion, work that well. But there's some stuff on here. Like I'm proud of Marilyn Manson for coming through and actually curating this project, just because he had a number of like Marilyn Manson had a number of things that he could have done. Now, because this is a review, I am going to criticize this album somewhat, just because really there should have been a new Marilyn Manson song on here. There's only one Marilyn Manson song with his vocals on there, and that's just the fight song Slipknot remix. But I really feel like Marilyn Manson probably should have given this soundtrack a single. I mean, because really, the last project he had done at that time was Holywood, which came out in late 2000, and then this album, the Resident Evil soundtrack, came out in early 2002. So that was still a full year away from like the golden age of grotesque that he was working on in 2003. And I really felt like this could have been a pretty cogent stopgap for Manson, where he could have supplied the album with just like a decent kind of B-side single, something that could have came out and really kind of had maybe like the energy of the fight song, but just in a lazier sense. I mean, Manson is usually not one to shy away from like the potential to kind of give his all, and it's not like he didn't give his all in this, but I just feel like just like an easy kind of single that maybe could have been from like the Antichrist Superstar sessions or the Hollywood sessions, even maybe an extra record that he did with Godhead from around that time that could have worked extremely well. There's just a number of things that could have went on that we could have gotten this, but I will say that some of the stuff that Marilyn Manson does on here, I'm just going to kind of go in on this record just because there's not really a single. But I feel like the fight song Slipknot remix with Marilyn Manson is pretty much a pretty rock solid electronic kind of industrial metal type song. It just kind of has like that distorted kind of shriek that Marilyn Manson has. I mean, it has the same shriek when he's like, fight, fight, in like the fight song, but it has like some distortion towards it, and it just sounds a lot crazier. It sounds like a remix that Rob Zombie would do and that type of stuff. It just gives like an electronic feel, when the original fight song was basically just a pretty much new metal slash mild industrial metal song, but this just gives it a lot of distortion and stuff. The Resident Evil main theme, Jackal Goldkit kind of showed me this song in the past, and I did appreciate it. This really kind of has like a lot of like creepy kind of oozing eeriness to it. I feel like this is an easy one. This doesn't have any vocals on there, but Marilyn Manson did produce this. So it's kind of interesting to kind of get the main title theme as far as like as far I would see it as like an interlude. You know, it's something you kind of listen to at night, kind of in like pretty much a lot of settings. I mean, it's not quite a club song, but I do feel like in a sense of just an interlude towards the next song that's getting ready to happen. It just kind of has like that kind of emphasis of like something to be anticipated and dramatic. It kind of has like a very tense and anticipation kind of feeling, which I definitely give it in like a clever sense as far as trying to build some of that anticipation up and have like some real kind of eerie, chilling kind of goosebumps kind of feeling. So I like that. I really would say it just kind of does the trick as far as trying to I mean, because there's not a ton of songs on like movie soundtracks that are gonna actually like folks like Marilyn Manson just don't normally do that unless it's like Rob Zombie who made the movie or something. But just as far as like getting kind of like an eerie kind of tune to an eerie kind of tune just to kind of give you chills a little bit. But that's one. And then, like, I mean, all of the songs that Marilyn Manson dropped do not have vocals, minus the Fight Song remix. But I do feel like another song that really knocked it out of the park, that just kind of has like some ambient kind of house party ones. That's the word I was looking for the Resident Evil main title theme, is that just had a lot of house party kind of feel towards it. But Seizure of Power is another good one. This has a lot of excellent house party kind of feel. Just the energy behind it's a lot more like Fight Song. It's more pulsating and kind of furious and that type of stuff. And I would definitely kind of say that I appreciated the rock type feel of this. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I think was probably prevalent in the movie. I would have definitely said that it had like some vibes of just kind of, this is probably where you see the zombies and you're like running from them or something like that, or you're getting ready to shoot them or something like that. That type of feel. This really kind of has a easy kind of energy. Just, well, it's not easy, but just kind of furious kind of energy that kind of has like the vibe of just like getting you excited. Not quite a head banging song, but just easy something that kind of carries the energy and kind of crests through the night, especially if you're just tired of like the screamo vocals, and just something to kind of just listen to the instrumentation moreover. So it's just good to kind of get that. I'm glad that, I mean, I wish Marilyn Manson would have added some new songs to this, but I am glad that he at least did some good work on here and kind of switched and said, well, hey, let's just do some production rather than having like the vocals on every single song. So it's clever to do it, but I still would have wanted more from Manson. But I didn't quite enjoy Reunion and Cleansing that much. I mean, those just felt like songs that you would listen to just bait. They sound like they were ripped right out of the movie, more in a sense that it just was kind of like for the anticipation of the movie or something. Like, I can't really think of a time where I would listen to some of these where it would kind of be like, you know, if you were to have some sort of shindig, if you were to have some sort of shindig, it just kind of feels like these songs are more intended for like a movie going kind of setting, more so than just, you know, you have some people over and people are like, I mean, like Reunion and I want to, I think Reunion and Cleansing both take a while to kind of start up, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have like the part where the instrumentation kind of starts like 45 seconds or a minute and a half into the song, where it's just kind of like, you know, what's going on here. It's just kind of, it's quiet and then it gets loud later, and it just doesn't have like the same ambience that like Seizure of Power and the main title theme have. Those two songs definitely, main title theme and Seizure of Power, definitely have like a great energy and just kind of like spooky kind of like haunting kind of feel towards them that just is perfect for like house party setting, backyard setting, like car setting in some senses, hot boxing a car, that type stuff. Just easy kind of ghoulish kind of feel to kind of get with the night. But that's just the Marilyn Manson stuff. So there is some stuff on here. Another thing I have to knock this record for is just the fact that no one really gives this album any exclusives. Like Depeche Mode and Static X both give this record some B-sides that don't show up on albums until much later, or if you get like the Static X album, it's on the Japanese edition. But I kind of feel like there's no exclusives, and that really kind of bogs down this project, because I would have liked for some of these folks to have given this record a little bit more effort. Marilyn Manson didn't even give this record a brand new song, and nobody did. I mean, every single one of these songs you can find elsewhere, which kind of detracts from the experience as far as, well, why would you want to pick this up? I mean, I like the songs by Edema. I like the song by Depeche Mode. I like the song by Fear Factory, and I definitely like the song by El Nino. But if you can find these songs on other albums, then why get it here? That's just kind of the concept. I mean, really, there's not a lot of remix. Like, there's some remixes on here, like the Dig remix by Mudvayne was kind of pointless. I mean, it added like a kind of dissonant feel towards it, but I just feel like the original Dig is just 10 times better. It just didn't really contribute anything to that. It's the same thing with like the Prodigy mix for Method Man's Release Yourself. I mean, it was trying to come off as like this kind of trip hop, kind of electronic type feel, but I don't know how well that suits Method Man. I mean, I would have liked just a new Method Man song where he did that rather than trying to. It just was not the right. I mean, it felt like it was kind of trying to be like West Coast with like the way that the kind of synths were in the song, but it just didn't happen to have like the right type production. I would have rather Method Man been on like an electronic song and seen what he could have done with like some rave type music. And it's the same thing with the Crystal Method. They just came off as like some boom bap wannabe. Where I know that their Name of the Game single actually did pretty well back in 2001, and they do trip hop and electronic music. But I don't know, just between the boom bap vocals and then just the lack of interesting production on the song just contributed to something that was good on paper but didn't quite turn out that well in terms of what they were trying to do. I just felt like it needed to be way wilder than what they gave us. And like some of these, like there's some other ones like the Ramstein song that I felt like didn't really fit the energy of the album. I mean, it was kind of, I mean, there were some up-tempo songs, but I just felt like for the most part, these just kind of came off as just running from zombies or fighting zombies type feels that probably the energy didn't quite. Cold Chamber and Ramstein and Static X try to give like a more kind of ferocious kind of energy where it's kind of more in your face, kind of where you would be shooting zombies with shotguns type feel. But I feel like the only real example that really pulls off this kind of more in your face and viral up tempo kind of moment is just Static X. Like Wayne Static, the late great Wayne Static does an excellent job of cultivating energy on anything but this. His shrieks and just his craziness on there. The other ones just kind of just have mild kind of attempts at it, and it's just odd to kind of get that just because like I don't know if it's just because their chart potential is just not there, but it in my opinion it doesn't carry like the same kind of energy that it probably needs to. It doesn't feel as organized and as distinct as it probably needs to. I mean, some of this is just kind of like background music. It just doesn't jump off the page the way the Marilyn Manson stuff does. So I think that that's kind of the thing there. But yeah, so just to kind of talk about some of that, like, some of the songs I didn't enjoy. It's the same thing with Saliva. That's another one that was a Marilyn Manson remix, but I don't feel like it really contributed to much just because the energy was just kind of off-putting. I mean, really that was kind of going for more of like an alternative metal and post-grunge kind of feel, but it didn't really seem to match. But I do feel like in some of that post-grunge kind of bleary, like there are some songs on here that have like this kind of bleary, kind of windy September day kind of feel, like Everyone by Edema, What Comes Around by El Nino, and Invisible Wounds by Fear Factory. And then I would probably say 800 by Saliva, but Saliva didn't quite work that well. Their variation of it I didn't quite enjoy as much. The energy just didn't seem to match. I feel like they probably should have went with a song from like their 2001 album. That one was for like from back in 1997. I didn't really feel like Manson really contributed that well. He can do better remixes than that. He did the songs he gave were better than the help he gave Saliva. But I definitely like the kind of cool breezy September day kind of feel of like the Everyone song by Edema, and then like the Fear Factory one, and then El Nino. They all did it well. So it just kind of gave it an extra kind of post grunge kind of feel that there's just a variation of like post grunge, electronic, and industrial metal. But the concept behind it is it just kind of has some different variations of energy where this album kind of comes off as kind of an autumn, September, October, November kind of feel, despite the fact that it came out in March and the movie came out at the beginning of the year, and it's months before that would have happened, but the energy is there, but it's just kind of, yeah, it just has different kind of moods for it. But so just to talk about some of this more, like some of the stuff about this, I kind of feel like the Manson stuff is okay. He probably could have used an exclusive song. Some of the stuff he contributes to the project is good. I just feel like some of it is just too movie related. Didn't really see like, okay, can I go out in the backyard, have a beer to this, invite some people over, and we all are just like, exuberant over this and that type of stuff. There's not enough moments of that. Like some of the post grunge type feels are pretty good. The more exhilarating kind of moments that are more high energy and high octane are not really quite pulled off as well, just because there's not enough larger names to kind of help contribute towards the atmosphere of it. And then the rap type songs, the electronic rap type songs don't really work that well either. So that's kind of the lowdown of what I've been trying to describe here. But so I'm gonna go ahead and list the songs I recommend out of 20. And oh yeah, the Umbrella Corporation intro, there's like, or not intro, but it's kind of like a skit where the song is called Umbrella Corporation. It just basically talks about the Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil, the game, where it's like, or the movie, where it says that this is a lofty kind of corporation that 9 out of 10 people in the land have this stuff, and it's just organized, and it's got like a lion's share of the market and that type stuff. It's pretty good. I like that. I feel like that's an easy kind of executed emphasis to have extra wise. So there's 9 songs out of 20 that I recommend. So I'll go ahead and list them for you. So that would be Everyone by Edema, Dirt by Depeche Mode, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Fear Factory, Invisible Wounds, uh, What Comes Around, Day of the Dead mix by Il Nino, the fight song Slipknot remix by Marilyn Manson, Resident Evil main title theme by Marilyn Manson, Seizure of Power by Marilyn Manson, the Umbrella Corporation skit, and then Anything But This by Static X. All of those are really excellent off the soundtrack, and I would have to say that Depeche Mode, I don't know if I talked about them, but their song Dirt is actually pretty damn good. I feel like it's very similar to like Marilyn Manson. The vocal drawl and just the panache of their voice, the tone of their voice just sounds very, very similar to Marilyn Manson, and it works extremely well. Reminds me of Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor type stuff, and it reminds me of like Marilyn Manson, just the same kind of feel towards it, just an easy kind of sparkling, twinkling, kind of hazy kind of song that felt like something that he would have done like on what was like on like something off of like Portrait of an American Family or Smells Like Children by Marilyn Manson. Just has that same kind of hazy. It's not really an up tempo song. It's just kind of a mid tempo, slow mid tempo, kind of hazy industrial metal song that works extremely well. But that's just kind of the concept. So me liking 9 songs out of 20, which actually there's 18 if you don't count the 2 skits. So basically 8 songs out of 18. I just would have to say because the Umbrella Corporation was was a skit. I would say 8 out of 18. I'm gonna say that that's more than a third. I'm just gonna give this record like a 4.75 out of 10. I feel like it's lacking quite a bit, and I've explained several of the reasons why. There's enough on here, but the main thing about it is this album is not really spearheaded by anything substantive. Like there's no single, no exclusive Marilyn Manson song, no exclusive songs by anybody, and a lot of differential type varying things that just attract different energies that don't all hit something. There's not like a hit from every type that tries to go on here. There's some rap, there's some post grunge, there's some fast paced kind of thumping metal, and there's some kind of like electronic type stuff like that Marilyn Manson does, but none of it, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, you have to sift through it. That's why I made this review, is just because there's not a lot of folks who have sifted through this just to kind of explain this to folks. That's just kind of the thing, but it definitely could have used an exclusive. If Marilyn Manson had dropped a single, guarantee it would have hit, and this project would have probably sold better. I definitely would have had to have said, but that's just kind of the concept about it. No one really jumps off the page with an extreme amount just because there's no exclusives. I mean, the songs are good. I definitely like some of the songs on here, but if you can find them elsewhere, the remixes don't really justify in a lot of ways getting it. And that's just kind of the thing. They're good. Some of the remixes, if you have heard every single one of the original songs, if you can see some of the remixes, might contribute somewhat, but for the most part, not many do. Minus like the fight song and like the Il Nino song. Those are about the ones I feel like contribute the most, and maybe the Fear Factory. But that's just kind of the concept. So, but I really feel like Marilyn Manson would have stolen the show. I definitely think the Resident Evil main title theme is great. Easy kind of haunting feel. Seizure of Power is pretty great also. And the fight song Slipknot remix is great. But like I said, there's nothing that steals the show minus the Manson stuff. And it's just kind of lacking like something to spearhead this project. This really needs a single. So 4.75 out of 10. The social score I'll give a 6. The social score I'll give a 6 out of 10 as far as how well it does around your friends and stuff, because there is some stuff to kind of digest and find, but it just doesn't have any flagship like, hey, this is the reason why I bought this. But it does have a lot of infested kind of metal to kind of mess with. So 6 out of 10. Can this record be top? Probably. It just needs a single and such. And in terms of like the future, they haven't really made a Resident Evil movie. They might reboot the franchise or something like that, but I just would have to kind of say I might review more of these Resident Evil soundtracks, just depends, but I would like for them to have singles, but I know Marilyn Manson didn't continue to mess with these, so this is the one to get if you're a fan of him, which I am, but just to kind of say, it's just like, damn, we could have used some new Marilyn Manson on here.